If you like cold, you're going to love this video. If you hate it, you're going to hate this video. But what we're going to be talking about today is why the end of January is looking particularly cold and maybe even snowy. We're looking across the United States from space. You can see that we are finally saying goodbye to this storm off the East Coast. You can really see it spinning up there. And man, just how close we were to a nor'easter is kind of crazy. Think about. Happening here in the short term is a little bit of snow coming on the backside of this storm, riding that cold air down into the United States. Going to bring some widespread low amounts of snow throughout this region over here. But as usual, when the weather calms down, we enter into full speculation mode on what's going to happen when a next big storm is going to come. So let's go ahead and go right into it. All right, looking at the United States here in the 500 millibar area where we're looking at the height anomalies, essentially tells us the low pressures and the high pressures where they're setting up. We're looking at the EPS here to kind of get an average. That's what we're going to be doing. We're just going to be looking at averages, see if we can glean any future information on what's possible for the end of January. But pushing this forward, you can see that generally we're going to be in a low pressure regimen. It's going to still be pretty cold, not a whole lot of warm-ups on the way, maybe a little bit down there in the southeast. And eventually we're going to see this little high pressure system dive into the United States, which has been sitting back up here for quite a while, but we're eventually going to see yet another blocking pattern up here in the northern Pacific Ocean, just to the south of Alaska. And what that's essentially going to do is just sling cold air after cold air around it from the Arctic down into the United States. And eventually, we're going to start to see some low pressure systems try to develop across the United States, really tapping into that cooler air that's going to sink down from the Arctic. And we definitely have the potential here for some snowstorms, but where exactly that snow is going to happen is going to heck, was I even trying to say that? It's going to depend on where the jet stream sets up. So let's go ahead and look way above our heads at our jet stream and see if we can glean from there. So looking at our jet stream, you could see that generally stuck with it kind of coming out of the south and then moving up to into the northeast. And that's not really going to change. As we go well into the future, you can see that our jet stream is going to tend to kind of stick over the west coast and then kind of slingshot into the southeast and then up into the northeast. And pretty much any storms that do form are going to go in and along that track. We don't know just how strong these storms are going to be, but we do know, or at least have some pretty decent confidence, that there's going to be a lot of cold air kind of locked in parts of the western United States, which will eventually track across to the eastern United States if we can get a low pressure kind of ride along this jet stream and then up into this area. Anywhere on the northern part of this brown region will have an elevated chance for snowfall as we go into the end of January. We're talking about anywhere from the 18th all the way into the 20th here. And there's definitely an increasing signal for some snowfall. Like the Climate Prediction Center has already issued a slight risk for these regions all the way from Arizona up into the northeast, spreading through the Central Plains, Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley, and then also around the Great Lakes region. Slight risk for some heavy snow. So that's not just your light accumulations. That's some potential there for some heavy accumulations. Now, obviously, this is around a 20% to 40% chance of happening, so it's no guarantee. But with that cold air and our jet stream orientation as we go into the 20th, there's definitely an argument to be made that the end of January will end cold and snowy. So let's kind of look at some of our averages here on the EPS of just how cold it could get as we move into the future. So obviously across most of the United States, it's pretty cold right now, and that's going to kind of hang on for a while, pretty much all the way until our next pattern starts to set up. And I mean, you can see just generally colder all the way across the United States, maybe warming up there in the northern plains for a little bit, but then we start to get that new low pressure system and that high pressure system work together and sling some of that colder air back into the United States. And as you can see, moving into our 10-day frame, almost all the United States is well below zero here, and also well below average. And there's a lot of models that agree on some sort of below average temperatures coming into the United States. So we're going to have that cold air in place. We're going to have that jet stream orientation in place. So really any low pressure systems, which we're never going to really have some clarity on until we get a little bit closer, but any of them that form along that jet streak that comes over the eastern United States will kind of ride that all the way up to the northeast, bringing the potential for some snowstorms across a lot of these regions. Looking at the climate predictions estimation for below normal temperatures, 70% chance of this northern portion of the United States in the 8 to 14 day time frame being well below average. And that's even going to try to make it down into the southern plains, also into the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes region as well. This isn't going to really mean much if you don't have a whole lot of precipitation coming from the Pacific and the Gulf of Mexico in terms of snowfall. So let's see what they're saying on that front. So yeah, it does seem like whatever low pressure systems come in this area have a pretty decent chance, a 50% chance, of having some decent moisture associated with it. So again, any low pressure system that rides that little jet streak brings in some of this moisture. We could even see the potential for some severe weather down here in the southeast, and then some snowstorms, potentially major winter storms on the northern part of that jet streak. And just to kind of fantasize what some of these storms might look like as we go into the future, we're going to use a deterministic run. So this is just one model run. None of these storms are actually going to happen as this model says, but we can kind of fantasize what it's going to look like if a storm forms and then rides that jet stream all the way up from the Gulf of Mexico, takes some Pacific moisture and some Gulf of Mexico moisture, and then slings it up into some of that cooler air. So there's one up into the northern United States over there near the Great Lakes, and then eventually going into the future, potentially another storm over there in the eastern United States, another storm following that, and then another storm over there in the eastern coast as well, and then eventually some more moisture over there. Now that's just one scenario. As you can see, the GFS deterministic run has that jet streak a little bit farther to the east. So we saw a lot more low pressure systems ride over here. Just imagine the EPS average is right, that all those storms are going to be coming in this direction out from the south, bringing a lot of snow up into these regions. So that's kind of what my thoughts are for the end of January. Again, no guarantees. We're only looking at averages here. But I will say a lot of models are saying that cold air is definitely possible. But where exactly those low pressures form are still going to be up in the air until we get a little bit closer. Now, in terms of what's happening in the time frame where we can actually have some accuracy here, we are watching for a little bit of a clipper system to come down out of the northern portion of the United States and kind of run through areas like parts of Wisconsin, going into the Ohio Valley, bringing some additional totals on top of what we've already had. But as you can see, it's really not going to be a heavy snow for the eastern portion, but we cannot rule out the possibility here for some snow squalls as this moves off to the east. So again, snow squalls are quick hitting, heavy snowfall amounts building up really quickly, and it can really lower that visibility as well. But as you can see, these aren't really going to be that thick, so we're not going to be talking about big time accumulations out of this at all. But you could get some windy conditions and also even some thunderstorm snow. But it's going to be really hard to tell exactly where each one of these snow squalls really sets up. So really anybody in this area needs to be watching out for snow squalls, and anyone back up in this region needs to be watching out for some light accumulations with some moderate snowfall. In terms of our snowfall over the next couple of days, you can see we're not really talking about a lot. The main people that are going to be getting some decent snow are going to be up here in northern Minnesota, North Dakota, and maybe a little bit over there in Wisconsin. We're talking anywhere from 4 to 5 inches up here and the 1 to 2 inches here around Wisconsin, with some trace amounts all the way throughout the Ohio Valley, making it up into the northern Northeast. So we're not talking about a big time snowstorm by any means, but especially if you're over here, just watch out as these snow squalls develop and come through your area around on the 13th early morning, going through the evening. Could see visibility drop quite a bit for maybe like 10 minutes. So I'd keep your eye on those winter weather alerts that could be possible as this comes through, because some of these snow squalls can create quite dangerous driving conditions. Also, over the next couple of days, we're going to be expecting some rain and potentially some thunderstorm activity down here near the Gulf Coast. A little bit of moisture is going to make it there. We really don't have kinematics for anything but rain at this point. Maybe some thunderstorms every now and then making it onto the coast over there near Panama City, but this would mostly be light to moderate rain there. We're not really expecting any severe weather, tornadoes, or any of that. So nothing to really worry about unless you got like outdoor plans. But yeah, generally after this big old swirl gets out of our hair completely, I mean, we're not really talking about any big weather events. But I really do feel like as we move into the 18th through maybe like the 25th of January, we could start to see the weather pattern get a little bit more active. But as always, thank you guys for tuning in, and let's do a little bit of trade. Since I just did this forecast for you, it took me about 30 minutes to record this. Going to take a little bit longer to edit. How about you take 1 second out of your day, hit that subscribe button, help the support channel. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you guys on the next video.